Welcome back, everybody, to a very special episode of The Lead. We got a returning guest at the Van Doren, best Twitter handle I've ever seen, obviously. Go ahead and talk about yourself, Kenny.
I'm Kenny Van Doren. I'm the site expert at climbingtaleshill.com. It's a fan-sided account for the Houston Astros, and we're on Twitter at AstrosCTH and on Facebook at Climbing Towels Hill. We have updates on latest prospects, regular MLB news, Houston Astros news, anything you're looking for on the Astros, we got it. I like to tweet a lot from the account, a lot of polls, a lot of questions. I like to, hear everyone's feedback and thoughts as well. So if you're looking to, just share your information, share your thoughts, you can always just let us know.
Mans is always on the road. I will say that. Representing at Missouri, go Cougs, by the way. And gotta throw my Cougs propaganda in there every once in a while. But go Tigers.
Yeah, thank you.
And but initially we gotta get the thoughts right away. We haven't delved into the World Series loss on my channel. It's been tough for me to kind of gather my thoughts on it. So why not gather it right here with a very special guest? What you think, man? What's up with the loss? Game 6 loss.
It was a lot of emotions. I think, you return home after winning, big in Game 5 in Atlanta, and you're just thinking, they're going to turn it around. They're going home, going to their ballpark. They're playing with the roof off. Last time they put the roof off, they, blew out the Braves. That didn't happen. They, the Braves jumped on them early. A few bad calls, it happens. Umpiring, it's not always going to be perfect. And we've seen that all postseason. That happened in the White Sox series, happened in the Red Sox series. That there were those calls that was like, it changed the tide. And it really did. The Jorge Soler home run that just, that sealed it. When he hit it out of the stadium, you're like, oh gosh, when is the last time we're going to see Correa come up? That's where it got me. When Correa stepped in the box the last time, I'll be honest, I've never cried during a sporting event, but that was just this is my childhood. My childhood's going away right here.
Yeah, I feel that. And, it started for me, getting free tickets from school for when they were losing 100 games and watching Brett Oberholzer and Adrian Wojciechowski and all these guys that I'm just like, just hand on my head. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get it together. We're going to get it together. I can feel it. And when 2015 started, that was really the spark of something special with the Astros. And I still believe to this day, if, Will Harris with the combination of Correa, not bobbling that ball, that team was on a magical run. And they gave the Royals, who became obviously the eventual World Series champs, a big run for their money. And that to me is what kind of kickstarted this awesome 5-year run. And I hate to make it sound like it's over, because it's not even. Fans that want to say it's over, it's not even close. Stuttering on my own words, because I just get so upset about when people say it's over. It's not. And even if you lose Correa, it's still not over. You got great prospects down there at shortstop that could also potentially play shortstop for you. A stopgap in the Ledmys Diaz, who's done well for you in his tenure here for the Astros, and obviously a boatload of free agents. But the Astros losing that World Series game, it hurt. Didn't hurt as much as 2019 though.
I think I would definitely agree with that. I think 2019, going into that postseason, this is the greatest Astros team of all time. This is a top 10 team I've ever seen. And, I was only 19 years old at the time, but, that team was unbelievable. And I know going into Game 6, and I was like, oh, they're up 3-2 here. We let this one go, just eat the next one, they'll get it. And then right when Greinke got pulled, I was just like, oh please put in Cole. I just end this, don't let them have any chance of scoring. And that home run by Howie Kendrick just ruined it. That ruined my whole year. October was a bad month for me in my first year of college, and that really ruined my month.
Yeah, I feel that. 2019 was a year where I talked a lot of trash.
Oh yeah. I remember before every single series, I would say, I'm sorry what happens next, Tampa. I'm sorry what happens next, New York. That was my kind of mentality. And, going into this year, I was like, I think they can make it to the World Series. I'd understand if they didn't. And this World Series it wasn't that memorable to me. I I don't know, of the three that the Astros have been to, since I've been, really into baseball, it goes, 2017, 19. And then this year, there's not really that big game that just felt like it was, this is a great World Series. There was games where it was 4-2 and 2-0.
Yeah. Do you think the batting practice really played into effect those 3 games in Atlanta?
I think, it's a stadium they've never played in before. It's an
Yeah.
atmosphere they never played in before, but they're also Major League Baseball players. I don't think it really bothered them as much. I think it's just, everyone was cold at the wrong time. There was nobody like, there wasn't a Yordan Alvarez 2021 ALCS, burning through that lineup. And I bet it had some factor. They were still hitting in the cages. They probably just weren't used to, how everything felt and, the dimensions of the field. It's a very, tricky ballpark. There's some deep corners, that in that left and right field. But in the end, I don't think that's really the factor for them losing. I think they just weren't even hitting the ball.
Yeah, I don't want to take nothing away from the Atlanta Braves. They're the better team, 88
Yeah.
win team. And I say that feels like a shot at them every time I talk about them because the Astros should have won. That's why I make it sound like that. And the Astros should have won this series. We did see Alex Bregman got the wrist injury pretty much right after the World Series. I was telling people, I was real adamant that Alex Bregman just looked like he was injured. There was something up that he didn't look like himself. And so I have the same question for someone like Framber Valdez. Did he really fully recover from the pinky injury? If you know.
I'm not going to speculate. I don't know anything about, him recovering from his injury, but, when he came back, in the summer and, during the regular season, there was a time where he was going like 10 starts and he had a sub-3 ERA. Everything looked fine there. The sticky stuff broke down. A lot of pitchers, were changing how they threw. A lot of, RPMs were changing and pitch types were changing. And I don't know if that's something that affected any of the Astros pitchers at all. But, he's, a young guy. He pointed out that he was nervous in the World Series. How could you not be? It's his first time pitching in that, that big stage. And, just both starts, didn't really go his way. There was some talks, he did talk about having, a psychiatrist, therapist kind of thing to, calm him down, teaching those breathing techniques and stuff like that. And, it's that big stage, he's a young kid. I don't think he was, as mature yet, but, he's going to learn from this, hopefully he bounces back in another one.
Yeah. So we continue with starting pitching. You got Framber Valdez, you got Jose Urquidy, you got Luis Garcia. Is that the future of your rotation with alongside, of course, McCullers? Or do you see somebody else that they could add or somebody else that maybe Astro fans haven't keyed their eyes on yet?
Well, there's definitely going to be someone in, the free agency market that I feel like they should add. I don't think Jake Odorizzi is really going to give you a full productive season. I think those days are behind him. After 2019, he battled an injury in 2020, and in 2021, he also battled an injury, delayed start, COVID issues, just everything was just, bugging him. And he wasn't there. He wasn't eating innings. He wasn't really getting into a rhythm. There's names out there. There's Marcus Stroman. There's Robbie Ray. There's an abundance of names, Carlos Rodon, Max Scherzer. It depends how much they're going to spend. And I think it would behoove the Astros to, spend, they have close to 60, 70 million, worth spending. And, they could get someone at 2020 average annual value in one of those pitchers. And they need someone that can complement Lance McCullers at the top of the rotation. Lance is going to be back next year. The Astros said in January, he should be back to throwing, regular throwing programs, getting back into the baseball flow. So he'll be back for spring training. But you still need that guy up there. We saw that in the postseason. Once Lance went down, Lance was your best pitcher. And coming into the season, a lot of people didn't even think he was going to be. Zach Greinke wasn't the starter anymore. Jake Odorizzi wasn't showing that much value. And, without Lance, you have these 3 starting pitchers and Garcia, Urquidy, and Valdez. And, they're some young guys. And they really weren't as mature as, you're hoping to. You're putting them up on the stage that they've ever been on before. So there's definitely guys on the free agency block that the Astros should look at. But, in the minor leagues, there are a few names that could be depth this year. Not totally sure that they'll be taking on a rotational spot. You got Hunter Brown, Kent Emmanuel will probably be in the bullpen. I'm not totally sure if he has the length to go a regular start. I know in his first game ever, he went 8 2/3. that was immaculate. I'm not totally sure if he can do that again. His couple starts after that was really low leverage, 1 to 2 innings. Tyler Ivey's down there. I think Peter Solomon in the next 2 years is going to be like a bona fide ace for somebody. He has so many pitches. He's so pitch efficient. And I'm really banking on Peter Solomon to be, a key piece to that rotation soon.
You said for somebody. So are we talking about a trade potentially? Is it someone you're looking at that you think that he can help the Houston Astros with a trade, bolster something? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like the Astros should have put more trust in Solomon at the end of the season. I was really banking on him to pick up a start in September. And I understand that they were trying to win the division. There wasn't that many starts for him. And I honestly thought that he was going to get traded in late August at the trade deadline. He has so much value. He was the AAA West pitcher of the year. The ERA doesn't really show it in the minor leagues. A lot of different elevation issues. Ballparks are a lot different compared to major league ballparks. The ball travels a lot better in the AAA West. But Solomon has value. And if they're really going to go after somebody on the trade block and not in free agency, I think Solomon, has a lot of value to reel in somebody. I thought he was going to be a Chicago Cub. I thought Craig Kimbrell was going to be an Astro. And that was really my thought on Peter Solomon. And, I love the guy. I think he's awesome. I think he has a great pitch selection. And, like I said, he's very pitch efficient. He doesn't really throw a lot of pitches and he can eat innings. And that's what they'll need out of the bullpen in him.
You mentioned all these starting pitchers -1, the big elephant in the room for Astro fans, Justin Verlander. What is going on with him, man? It just seems like a lot of Astro fans got a lot of hate towards him now. I feel like it's unwanted hate or just misinformation. I'm not quite sure on this. What do you think?
Yeah, you hear a lot of different things. John Granado of ESPN 975, he's a friend of mine. He said that the Astros were looking to have him throw out the first pitch in the ALDS, and the players didn't want him to. I'm not going to believe that John would make that up. He's a very reputable guy, but in the end, you want to see Verlander in the dugout. You wanted to see him in the, at those games somewhere in the stands, maybe in a box with the owner, with Jim Crane. But at the end of the day, I'm not totally sure what the protocols were for COVID-19. In 2019, when Lance McCullers Jr. was recovering from Tommy John, he was still with the team every single game. He went, he traveled with the team as well. And he was on the 60-day IL, just like Justin Verlander. And then you saw on Twitter, maybe like 2 weeks ago, Justin Verlander was throwing and like his daughter came up and hugged him. It was a very nice moment. And he replied to Roosh, who's a basketball guy, big Astros fan as well. And he told him, he was like, I wish I could be out there, but at my throwing program, I can't bring all my coaches with me and all the trainers to Houston and do this. And that makes sense. A lot of people were mad in, our comments about Justin Verlander. Oh, but he can throw 95 now, but he wasn't with the team in the World Series. It's like, it's not his decision. It's not his decision to come back. It's not his fault he got hurt. He was 37, 38 years old when he got hurt. I'm sorry that, your body might give out at some point, but he was a good guy. He really did something for this team. And even if the players were a little, bent out of shape that he wasn't there, I think it's, the Astros' choice that he didn't come back. If he wasn't ready, they weren't going to risk it. They weren't going to risk a roster spot, risk his, future health just because they wanted him to pitch like 2 innings and then possibly re-injure himself.
Real quick, before I ask the most obvious question in the world, people that say, well, why wasn't he pitching in the World Series? Just those buffoons, first of all, don't understand what it takes for him to get ready mentally too, because he's just coming off Tommy John surgery at his age. There is so much to get into with that. And oh man, that really, really irks me, really upsets me, because they just believe, well, if he could just go out there and throw 96, why couldn't he do it a week ago? And I'm like, hey man, there's a lot of preparation to go into that. And just because he's throwing there's a lot to go into that. Crowd factor, the opponents, he's just throwing, all we know is he's throwing 96, 97. What about his off-speed stuff? What about his other stuff? You can't just throw 96, 97 and expect to just get everyone out. I mean, Lance McCullers threw 27 curveballs, but that's entirely different than Justin Verlander. I say that because I had a comment on YouTube that said, well, if he could throw nothing but fastballs up there and get outs, no. Well, Lance McCullers did the same thing in 2017. No, very, very different situations. Just really irked me. Okay, but
yeah, I get that. He was 12, 12 to 14 months coming back.
yeah,
He
man.
needed time to rehab. I was always just banking on, James Click said that they weren't going to rely on him. And then just out of the blue, we see on the transaction page, Justin Verlander sent on a rehab assignment. That's what he needed if he was going to come back. He never got a rehab assignment. So there was really, after you saw that after the AAA season ended, there was no, he wasn't coming back.
No, never. Now, the most obvious question in the world: do you bring Justin Verlander back on the Houston Astros?
Would I?
Yeah, would you?
Well, it's his choice. He has the qualifying offer sitting there, and if it was up to me and I said, you have to accept it or not, I'm going to say yes. All these scouts are saying he's the same Justin Verlander from a long time ago, and bring him back. That's what I'm going to say. That probably might not be the answer you wanted to hear, but I'm a big Justin Verlander guy, and if the scouts are saying that he's the Hall of Famer, Cy Young guy from 2 years ago that was dominating the American League at 38 years old, then I'm bringing him back.
Yeah, I don't blame you. He hasn't showed nothing to create any doubt other than the Tommy John surgery, obviously, at his age. But hey, if these reports are valid and they seem to be extremely valid, hey, he's throwing 96, 97. He's looking back to his old self like he was with us in 2017, 2019. Hey, I don't have no problem with that whatsoever. If they want to bring him in, a veteran guy that can lead these young pitchers, help them out. A lot of people forget, you look back at 2017 when the Astros were down to the Dodgers, and I just remember Verlander coming out of that clubhouse yelling, getting the guys pumped, trying to get them excited, like, hey, this game ain't over till it's over. Let's get it going. Like, you can miss some of that without him in that rotation if you bring in a new face, so yeah, I agree with you. I don't have no problem bringing back Verlander. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to be like how you're just referencing. No, I don't want that guy. He quit. That's immediately the response. He's a quitter. He quit on the team. He didn't show up to any of the games. I'm not going to get into that aspect. I'm not going to get into that conversation, whether or not he did or didn't. That's entirely different. There's conflicting stuff, even from Ben Verlander. So, yeah, at the end of the day, do I want Justin Verlander here? Hell yeah. Okay. If I get a guy at 38 that's still throwing what he throws, hell yeah. Give me that. Give me the experience. Give me the veteran leadership. And speaking of someone that has leadership, we obviously got to get into the shortstop, the captain, Carlos Correa, number one in our hearts, number one on the field. What in the world is going on? Because I've seen a report from the Tigers. I've seen now a report from the Yankees, and they're talking to his agents. Are we really going to see Correa in some pinstripes?
They give him the right money, then yeah. I don't really think he should. He's talked about how the Yankees fans weren't very kind to him. No fans were kind to him, but Yankees fans took it to another level. They said some stuff I'm not going to repeat on here. But I know when we talked a few weeks ago, I did say that Carlos Correa, in my personal opinion, I was like, he's going to resign. I have faith in that. I'm not totally banking on that right now. I was just like thinking, like planning out a roster in my head. John Heyman reported that they felt kind of like of an insult for the offer he did get. If it was the right AAV, just it was 5 less years. And the guy that's the best shortstop in the game right now, he's going to want the biggest contract. He wants to be respected. The best way to be respected is get the most money he can, show everyone that, I'm the best shortstop. And if the Yankees have that money, a lot of people say like he idolized Jeter, he was a Yankees fan growing up. I don't know how much that's true. I know that I don't know what the teams are that, he watched when he was growing up, but I like that there was one thing he did say that Derek Jeter didn't deserve some of his gold gloves. Correa's a big advanced analytics guy, and he said Jeter didn't have the advanced analytics like he does. But I will say, you can quote me on this. If Carlos Correa signs as a New York Yankee, he's the greatest shortstop to ever play for the Yankees. Quote me on that. He's better than he's going to be better than he's a better player than Derek Jeter ever was. Quote me on that.
I will quote that, put it on a tweet at your game, and then I'm gonna add every Yankee fan I know.
They're gonna hate me for that one. But as much as they want Derek Jeter, or as much as they want Carlos Correa, he's better than Derek Jeter ever was. If you put Derek Jeter in another uniform for as long as he played, he would not be a Hall of Famer. Or he would have been a Hall of Famer, but he would have not been who he was, in everyone else's eyes.
Definitely agree with this. I remember when Craig Biggio was going up for the Hall of Fame, and I'm there watching Greeny, Mike Greenberg, Mike Golick when they were on in the morning. And Mike Greenberg said, and I still remember it because it bugs me to this day. They were naming players that were potentially to be able to go to the Hall of Fame. They said Craig Biggio. Mike Greenberg said, "Oh, well, that name doesn't strike me as a Hall of Famer." And it bugged me because I know he's a Yankee fan. And I know when you look at the numbers between Biggio and Derek Jeter, take the postseason away, you're looking at quite identical numbers, very identical numbers. Now, yes, the postseason has to come into effect at some point, obviously, when you're talking about Hall of Fame level. That's what makes your Hall of Fame career is the postseason. And yes, he's clutch. He's Captain Clutch. He's Derek Jeter. He's the guy. He's whatever. I will put up there that Craig Biggio is a better player than Derek Jeter. I will throw that on the damn wall. Love the quote. I'm definitely tweeting that one out. I can't wait for that. I'm excited. I'm giddy already, man. The biggest thing I will say, I had a fan on here on my YouTube channel. He's subscribed to me. He's commented multiple times before, and I referenced this to you before we recorded. This guy had a very well thought answer on Carlos Correa, and so I'll just start reading it. Correa's WAR was excellent this year, but if I'm the Astros, I allocate the money coming off the books. 12 million Correa, 25 million Greinke, an additional 10 million paid by Arizona, and 33 million Verlander, and use that elsewhere. You need starting pitching, go after, say, both Robbie Ray and Marcus Stroman. Jim Crane said that he'd keep the payroll somewhere close to where it is now. Even with raises kicking in for a few players next year, there's over 50 million-ish coming off the books this winter. Downgrade at shortstop, lower AAV, fewer years needed on a contract, but make it up for your starting rotation. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez still have an upward trajectory. Brantley is steady. Gurriel and Altuve are solid, and you can hope Bregman gets healthy after this week's wrist surgery and goes back to the level he was once at before. Add some arms to shut down the other team's offenses in the playoffs, and the Astros yet again will be the team to beat in the American League. What are your thoughts on that? And I know that was a lot. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with it. I'm not totally sure on the two starting pitching. I know a lot of people replied to me. I posted an article today, and it was about 3 starting pitchers that the Astros could go after: Marcus Stroman, Robbie Ray, and Kevin Gausman. And when you look at those names, some people were like, "Oh, let's take 2 of them. That's going to be 40 AAV possibly there. Those guys might make 20 plus a year." But it's a good idea. I think there are still some relievers on the market. Relievers can bounce around. I have no idea if Kendall Graveman's coming back. No idea Yimi Garcia. Relievers are going to go wherever the money is. And if the money's not in Houston per a total amount over 3 or 4 years for either Yimi or Kendall, then they're not going to come back. They're going to go wherever the money is. And I don't know if the money is there for Graveman. At least I don't think Yimi is going to get a bigger contract than he did the last 2 years. But if someone like Brooks Raley could come back on a 1-year deal, possibly another lefty out of the bullpen. Not totally big on Blake Taylor at the moment. I think he has another year to prove himself. But even when you look at the shortstop position, the guy who commented, sorry about, a low AAV, why not just jump big right here and get Marcus Semien? Why not, if you're going to get somebody on a short-term deal, that's what Jim Crane is known to do.
Yes.
Try Marcus Semien. I'm not big on Trevor Story. But I don't think Corey Seager is going to be an Astro or wants to be an Astro. But if you're not going to get Correa back, and I don't think it's going to be reported that the Astros are just officially not talking to him anymore. But if they're not talking to him, invite Marcus Semien down. Show him around the ballpark, talk to him, Jim. If Correa's not coming back, get that other guy who was up for the MVP.
Yeah, Marcus Semien is definitely a guy I've looked at. he would make the Crawford boxes.
Oh my
He,
goodness.
he
You
would,
have a 40 home run season. Like
yes,
I,
like
I'm for certain.
yes, for sure. He would own the Crawford boxes. He would just own them.
Like
So
we had Keitel's corner, it'd be Simeon's boxes or something like that.
essentially, that's what it's going to be, because Marcus Semien, again, 40 home run season, like you said, that's a guy that I've said it as a stopgap kind of shortstops for them to lead into Jeremy Pena, who could potentially take over and take the reins. And, from what we've seen from him, athletic ability, the power to go combined with his defensive ability, that's a big, big, huge, player that you got in the minors that a lot of fans got a lot of hype around him right now. I do want to keep on the starting pitch, and you had an interesting article, and man, I forgot to write down the person's name that wrote the article. But Chris Bassitt, man, that is an interesting take. Making a trade for Chris Bassitt. Obviously, it came out that the A's seemed to be looking to trade some of their starting pitchers along with Frankie Montas, and other. I can't think of the other guy's name at the moment, but Sean Manaea. How can I forget him? But yeah, Chris Bassitt. That's the name that is very interesting. It's eye-popping to me. It's definitely someone I would look into if I'm the Astros. Delve into it, man. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, so that article was written by Zach Oblinski. He's a new contributor for Climbing Tiles Hill. He wanted to write the article, and then John Heyman reported that Chris Bassitt was possibly being shopped. It makes sense. The A's are retooling. They're not going to pay people. People are, the players are running out of, control. And, Chris Bassitt has 2 years left. Matt Olsen is another name that's going to be floating around in free agency. They lost their manager. They're going to lose Mark Canha. Their center fielder is suspended. We love it. We love their center fielder. Great guy. And Ramon Laureano.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, they do have 3 starting pitchers that could be on the trade block, and the A's aren't afraid to trade in division. A lot of people responded to us saying, never trade in division. It's not going to matter. They're like, well, last time the Astros traded center fielder there, it didn't go well. Well, that center fielder suspended. So I think that's fine for the Astros right now. You look at it, Chris Bassitt of those 3 is the guy that I'm all for. Chris Bassitt defended the Astros. He was one of the big players to do that. Marcus Stroman was also one of the other guys to do that. And when fans see that, they're like, oh, bring him here. He wants to be an Astro. And I'm not saying, that's not a reason, but sometimes players do, kind of say that in the field to make themselves look a little bit better to those, bigger teams that are trying to spend money. And Chris Bassitt, he had 2 years of control left. He was an all-star this year. He's a workhorse. He got hit in the face a month ago, came back when people were projecting he wasn't going to pitch again this season. The guy wants to be out there. The guy works. And, he bounced back last season against the Astros. He talked about how the Astros is like, it's hard to pitch against these guys. It's a really good lineup. You expect me to pitch perfect, every single time. And he bounced back, every single start. He had a sub 3.5 ERA, great pitcher all around. I'm not totally sure how much he's worth in terms of prospects. Yeah, people have floated the name Chas McCormick, Jose Siri. Not totally sure how much trade value Jose Siri has.
Yeah.
There's very minimal at bats, only 1 year, one option year left for the minor leagues. So there might not be a lot of trade value in Jose Siri. It could be like a little throw in to, even it out. I don't think Chas McCormick is getting dealt at the moment. They did have 3 center fielders this year at the end of the year: Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, and Jose Siri. And Jake Myers, we learned today, is going to be out for some time. He's not going to be ready by opening day due to his shoulder surgery. So I don't think it makes the most sense to trade Chas McCormick or Jose Siri unless you're going to sign Starling Marte. So I'm all for Chris Bassitt. I'm all for the idea of it. I think some Rule 5 players could be traded. Some almost MLB ready pitchers in AAA that the Astros don't protect by December. It's whatever the Rule 5 date is. Don't have it on the top of my head. But I feel like that's the best option if you're going to go after Chris Bassitt.
Definitely. Bassitt is a dude. He's a really good starting pitcher, somebody that he's still young too. Somebody you can rely on and just bolsters your rotation even more. potential of Bassett, Lance McCullers, Framber, Urquidy, Garcia. Oh man, that's a scary five right there. And you still got guys in the bullpen. I do believe they overpay a little bit for Graveman. It's just speculation. I don't know nothing. I'm just speculating. But I do believe they everyone will say, oh, he's got sources. No, I don't got sources. But I do believe they overpay a little bit for Kendall Graveman. That's just what I just believe. Yimi is going to be a coin toss to me. It's a guy that, see what he wants. If he's asking for more than what they think, okay, Yimi, you know what? Here's the door. Not like he was setting the world on fire with us, but someone like Kendall Graveman, he had some nasty stuff for you. Stanek, Graveman, Presley really showed out in the postseason. Graveman had some slight struggles compared to the other two, but I think it's nothing too serious. You can obviously fix that. And man, another year with the team, he could be really, really good for you. Now we will get into the crazy talk. I'm going to wrap it up a little bit, but I got a crazy question from a Astros fan. Here we go. Time to wrap your head around this one. Jeremy Pena. If Carlos Correa re-signs, can Jeremy Pena look into playing another position for the Houston Astros?
I think it just comes down to how long they want to use him as a utility player, because you got, Jeremy Pena can play second base. He can play third base. He played second base and third base, not in the minor leagues this year, but he was mainly a shortstop, but he played it in the Dominican Winter League and he won a Gold Glove in the Dominican Winter League. So, that versatility is there. I don't think Jose Altuve ever plays for another team. He's up at like 2024, 2025. There's no reason for him to ever play for another team. I don't think he would ever want to. But if the Astros don't re-sign him, and I'm not totally sure Jeremy Pena would still be around by then. If the Astros do re-sign Correa, I think it would be that Jeremy Pena gets traded. There's a very weird coincidence between Pena and Correa that they have the same birthday. And like they would be like the same like succeeding years. So, like Correa came into the organization like 2011, Pena would be coming into the majors, after 2021. It's just weird like timelines, but they're almost like the same player. They're versatile infielders that just have a cannon of an arm and have power. So yeah, I think the Astros would be in good shape if they just let Jeremy Pena develop. Don't throw him in automatically in there. But I'm not totally sure if he picks up a new position. I don't think he beats out Altuve or Bregman for a starting job, and I don't think he's big enough to play first. And he's not really an outfielder type, so I'm not totally sure he'd pick up a different position.
The implication behind that comment was Brantley's getting up in age. Could he play left field due to his athletic ability? That was the implication behind that. And
yeah, you see Aledmus Diaz play left field. Robel Garcia played left field. So I think there's a possibility. He's never played the outfield, to my knowledge. It's not on his baseball reference. But, maybe test the waters in AAA this year if they actually are thinking that. But I think he's too good of an infielder to, waste him in left field.
Obviously, you've seen some with even Tatis going out in the outfield and other players. This is nothing new, but definitely a guy that's a Gold Glover. I don't break it if it ain't fixed. I mean, how do they say it? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Other way around.
Yep.
Fumbling my words there, but yeah, that was the implication behind Jeremy Pena. Now you did say this is the preceding question after it. Correa does resign, let's say. No, just speculation, people.
Mm-hmm.
If he does resign, what is the trade market for Jeremy Pena? What can he bring to the Houston Astros?
I'm not totally sure if they would trade him before he gets to the major league level. I think Jeremy Pena would be a bona fide utility man. Like, he'd be great as a second utility man, learning behind Correa and Aledmus Diaz. People might see that and they're like, oh, this guy's probably going to be good. He's playing behind two, one of the greatest shortstops in the league, and then one of the best utility men in the league. Or they just get rid of him now in case sometime, something doesn't pan out in the major leagues. But I know some people floated that Bassett is worth as much as Jeremy Pena if Correa's re-signed. So maybe you get a starting pitcher out of it. I don't think they really, go after an outfielder, or maybe you just float him for a starting pitcher that's on the market. Maybe a reliever. It just depends. I'm not really totally sure on minor league value of players that really haven't played more. He's played only 30 games in the last 2 years. So there's not a lot of on his resume for, ready to play in the major leagues.
Definitely a raw prospect that fans keep seeing the videos and a lot of the hype around him that's just been kind of building up. Nowhere near the level of Carlos Correa, but in today's world, one video of him hitting a home run off of Jacob deGrom that barely left goes crazy. The home run off Jacob deGrom. So yeah, obviously, I'm not going to say Pena is a guy that you can rely on, but hey, you bring him into spring training. Obviously, they should. What do you got to lose? And if he does set the world on fire in spring training, I think the Astros will definitely keep that eye on him. Probably not. Obviously, he's going to be on the 40-man roster because you can't have that. But they're definitely going to keep an eye on him. I still believe at the end of the day, and this is how we're going to wrap up the video, Carlos Correa predictions, because that is the man of the hour. I posted a video on him yesterday, and within an hour, I got 1,000 views, and I was like, whoa, did not expect that. Okay, all speculation. At the end of the day, I feel the smoke around the Tigers more. I've said this before when I talked to you. I still believe that Carlos Correa, his relationship with AJ Hinch, him potentially being the face of that organization, with Miguel Cabrera going to be retiring, that money's coming off the books. The owner already came out, I believe is the owner, that came out and said, hey, we're willing to spend some money for him. Mentioned Correa, implied him. I think Correa at the end of the day, 9 years, $300 million from the Detroit Tigers, I think that's what he possibly gets with the Tigers. I think he goes there, and we have I don't know what we do at shortstop after that. Yeah, I like Diaz. I don't know if Diaz could be your full season shortstop.
Yeah, I'm gonna float some teams to you. I think the Rangers are up there. I think the Tigers and Yankees were the first, two teams to be actually reported that weren't just rumored by fans, fan speculations. The Tigers and Yankees are the first teams to be reported by major, news outlets, news reporters. But I'm going to float my 3 teams would be like the Tigers, of course, the Rangers. I think the Rangers, have money to spend. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is nowhere near the same playing style or skill as Carlos Correa, and Correa goes there. He's the face of the franchise. There's no one stepping in his way. There's 0 people. Toronto, if he really wants to get on a fun team, think about Toronto. Toronto has money to spend. Their whole infield is under team control. They're not even on contracts yet. You put him on Toronto, there would be a lot of Astros fans wearing Toronto gear next year. I can promise you that. They have Springer. I think Springer is one of their highest paid players. If they're not bringing back Robbie Ray, maybe, Correa looks at that. And of course, the Tigers. I think at the end of the day, Correa only had one manager before, Dusty Baker, and that was AJ Hinch. 2015 and to 2019, it was AJ Hinch. That was like his guy. And I think that's where he ends up. I think he's going to end up with the Tigers, and I'm going to say 10 years, 330.
Woo, $33 million a year, right shy of Lindor. But yeah, that's how we're going to wrap up this video, guys. Carlos Correa predictions. I don't believe he's coming back to the Houston Astros, even though I want him to. I love him.
We both do. Of course we do.
Obviously, whoever doesn't want to bring back the best shortstop in the league, better than Derek Jeter, by the way. Yeah. Great quote by the Vandalorian here. This is how we're wrapping it up, guys. As always, go Astros, go Rockets, go Texans. Any last thoughts you got, Kenny? Promote whatever you got, man.
I'm doing a new podcast with my friend Jimmy Price. He does Astros Future. If anyone's heard of Astros Future, it's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Astros Future. Jimmy Price does a lot of great work. He asked me recently to co-host his podcast with him. We're on Apple, Spotify, and a few other ones. So you can find them on Twitter, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, whatever your favorite, social media is. They're there. Follow him, follow me at the Vandalorian on Twitter. Thanks, guys.
I'll drop the link below for your podcast. as well as your Twitter, Jimmy Price's Twitter, because Astros Future is a great follow. If anybody wants to know prospects, videos, wants to see stuff, Jimmy Price has great content. If you want to get to know the Hunter Browns, the Jeremy Penas, the Pedro Leones, Luke Berryhills, people are going, huh? Who? What? Yeah, this is a very good follow. But that's it for today, guys. Y'all have a blessed day.